Is Maria coming today?
I think she's on her way.
Is she 2 minutes away or?
Would you like a chair out here?
No, no, I'm gonna be walking around.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
You can just take it easy for a second when
Okay.
they all come in. Kind of do it, so, okay, are we guys ready? So, I'm Arki Dillon. I'm the president of the Riverside International Film Festival, and welcome to our Filmmakers Forum. If we can start with Jim, just name and very brief introduction, and then we'll move on to the meat of the program.
My name is Jim Buchholz. I'm a professor at California Baptist University and independent filmmaker.
I'm Nancy Douglas, the RIF programmer.
Hello, my name is Claudia Kovacs. I'm a filmmaker and also a professional public speaker and crowdfunding consultant.
George Adams, filmmaker.
Kasani Johnson, filmmaker.
I'm Rahul Takrar, filmmaker as well as a student at Riverside City College in the film department.
I'm Boon Lohr, filmmaker.
Hi, Franco Raffici, writer and filmmaker.
Kun Pyo Park, I'm a filmmaker and faculty at UC Riverside.
Mark Robertson, Dean of the College of Architecture, Visual Arts and Design, which includes the film school at California Baptist, husband of filmmaker, and board member here at RIF.
Well, I really didn't expect this. I thought somebody had to be the audience. My name is Jeff Isbell. I'm an editor.
I'm Denora Reyes. I'm a professor at Riverside City College and a filmmaker.
Michael Eaton. I teach film at California Baptist University, and I'm a director and cinematographer.
Oh, I wasn't expecting to talk.
Oh, you're a filmmaker.
I'm Erin Dalen. I'm a filmmaker and just graduated from California Baptist University.
Oh, I'm talking to you? Okay.
Sure.
I'm Colleen Dowlands. I'm a filmmaker.
Colleen, why don't you come here?
Oh.
Okay. Right there.
And you can, hi. Okay. Nancy, go ahead.
If I could just ask the question, as probably the least knowledgeable about crowdfunding in the group, I've only heard about it more or less this year, and about the only source I've heard about is Kickstart, and I know that you have to get all the money you ask for in order to be given anything, but it sounds like maybe there are a lot more sources than that are out there, and you sound like somebody who knows them all.
Yeah, so I actually, just to give you a context, I raised $1.7 million from my own film, which was a feature-length documentary, and that was I crowdfunded my film before crowdfunding platforms existed. We created our own platform, and I created a community of 20,000 people for my film, and I had 2,000 supporters, and I used the structure that's called a hybrid fundraising, so you can have donations as well as investments. And as far as your question, yeah, there are different platforms, so it just depends on, there's actually a long list that I provide to my clients of what I suggest for the given project. International ones, local ones, depending on the topic, and every site is a little bit different, so it's hard to give you one specific issue, site recommendation, but there are various sites that you can use.
I think part of it also is depending on what type of film you're making. Is it a documentary? Is it a feature film? Is it a short? Is it a feature length? All of those things play into, again, the crowdfunding community. Do you have a named person? Is it whether it be an actor? Is it a named director? Excuse me. In our case, I was one of the producers on Claudia's film. We had Laszlo Kovacs, one of the award-winning cinematographer, and Vilmos Zsigmond, again, Academy Award-winning cinematographer attached to the project as well. And I think that really helped open some doors as well for the project.
So I know we've talked, Jim and I, and you're looking at crowdfunding and producing your project, Jim. If you came to you guys, what would be your 1, 2, 3, 4 list to do so that he could get on his way and do it?
Well, the word is crowdfunding. So the crowd comes first and the funding comes second. And I think a lot of people forget that. And you really have to put a lot of effort into creating a really big community in relations to, you know, the film that you're making. So depending on what kind of a film you're making, if you're making a short, then probably, you know, you don't need that much money. But if you're doing a feature length, especially if it's a fiction film, as opposed to a documentary, then you really have to create a big community. And I recommend the minimum time to spend on creating a community is 1 to 3 months. But if it's a bigger project, so we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not the millions, then I recommend to spend a year or even 2 on creating a community. Because once you create a community and there is a strategy behind that, how to do that, you know, you have to be active about it pretty much every day. And so once you created the community, the funding part will come much, 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 much easier, if not easy.
Jim, you add to that?
Well, one thing, I mean, besides the fact that on Kickstarter, if you don't reach a goal, you don't get anything. But if you do reach a goal, there's a couple things that people have reached their goals that have then come back to me and said, it was really hard to do this, and now it's not over because we have to fulfill all our commitments. And a friend of mine just got his filmed Kickstarter. It was $150,000. He raised $153,000. Right?
Nice.
Had over 800 supporters. But now, of course, you got to take care of 800 supporters. And it's very time-consuming. I think they basically have to hire someone now to take care of and do all that. Another person that came to me said about his successful Kickstarter was when they looked at who funded it later. And this was for a music video, and who funded it later, ended up, they knew every person. It was friends and family. It was like, man, we just could have gone to them and not set up a Kickstarter campaign, because it's like we didn't get anybody else except for the people that we already knew. And so, does that go along your lines of that's what you have to do anyway? I mean, it's just, I mean, how many people are trying to do crowdfunding and they actually find people interested in your project that you have no connection with to start with? How likely is that? Well, you have to have an idea that you want to attract funders, and you have to attract the interest. 50% of crowdfunding campaigns fail, so you have to really prepare. And yes, of course, family and friends, but I think as a filmmaker, you're in for the long haul. So after the 3rd film, probably your family and friends will go, time out, go somewhere else. You know, so I think if it's the 1st film, probably your family and friends will be really, really active. But if you're planning to be a filmmaker for a long time, I would recommend that you really expand that. Because you just, unless you're coming, your family's independently wealthy, okay, great. But if you're not a Getty family or, you know, any of those, then you really have to create ongoingly an interest. And you have to keep them engaged after you raise the funds. Because these people have an emotional investment, they have financial investment, quote unquote. And so you continuously want to expand your fan base. I think that's really important to know. Can you tell us more about your hybrid model?
Yes. So I heard about this actually through the IDA, which is the International Documentary Association. And the way it was, the IDA gave me a sponsorship, like a fiscal sponsorship. They take 5%. And at the same time, I had an LLC where the investors actually would give the money into the LLC. So I would be channeling money from 2 sources. One, the investors would write a check to the IDA,
The IDA would take 5%, and then the IDA would write me a check. So after every $100, I would get 95. And then I put that money into the LLC's bank account. At the same time, I had investors write a check to the LLC, and that my accountant was handling that. And so the reason for someone who has relatively a lot of money and they're writing investments for hundreds of thousands of dollars, investment is better because they can write it off the whole amount. If you're just if you gave an investment for $100,000, if you gave a donation as a $100,000 donation, then you have to deduct it in proportion of what the IRS allows. So if you have a lot of money, investments are better because you can just write it off as a loss, and fundamentally your gain is greater. So it really depends on the amount. You have to have that conversation.
But now on the LLC, you must have set up percentages, like you give this amount of money, you own this much of the film?
Yes, yes. Yes. So
well, the IDA, if I may, the IDA gave us some legitimacy. I know because we dovetailed that into the next project. And by utilizing the IDA, again, that gave us, again, the legitimacy. It wasn't just, somebody wasn't just handing a check to Claudia. They went through an organization that's been around years and years and years. There was an accounting process and that type of thing. So what Claudia did was that she allowed that hybrid of, if you wanted to donate $250, you could, and it could go through the IDA. And then depending on where your tax status was, you got a tax break. If a person, an investor, wanted to own more of the film or wanted to be a part of the film, a producer, what have you, then they could write the check directly to the LLC, and then that was handled differently. So what Claudia did was she again, this was something that nobody else had been doing.
Well, a few people, but very
it
few.
was very,
it's not a well-known model.
Yeah.
And some of the attorneys, excuse me for adding that, is some of the attorneys, entertainment attorneys in Los Angeles, I can recommend some names, who know this model very well. And there's a lot of legal and accounting angle to this whole thing. So I basically was doing what my attorney told me to do, which is really important, I think, to know that if you're going, I mean, there are several different crowdfunding models, basically 4 different crowdfunding models. The most common is people just give money and that's it. But then, there is you give products back, tickets back, various things. But fundamentally, I think it's really important to mention when we're talking about crowdfunding is having a strong legal team in place. And I know a lot of filmmakers are struggling financially, I get that. But at the same time, I think it's really important that your integrity also, extends to the legal angle and the accounting angle. I don't know, does that answer your question?
How much percentage is spent on the legal part?
Honestly, I don't remember. A good chunk, but I don't think I spend that much money. Maybe I'd say 15 to 20,000 at most for 1.7 million. So, but not that much. And I think it was worth it. I really think it was worth it because the contracts and it's just simply important. And you want to make sure, you own the film the way you want it, So with this model, with this hybrid model, I own 51% of the film and eventually bought out my investors at the end. So now I own the film completely.
So what happens if, I assume you set up a dollar amount on the LLC, like this is 1% of the film and so forth like that. And once you sell that other 49%, now you need more money. It's like, we need more money to make the film.
Yeah.
How do you handle that?
Well, from the donations.
So that's totally donations now, because you've already sold your 49% of the film.
Yeah. So I didn't sell it per se, I had members. So I think it wasn't, I think I know what you're talking about, that type of model, but I had members of my LLC. And so my membership represented 51%. Yeah.
So we have a lot of students here.
Yes.
You guys obviously want to go ahead and, be great directors and producers and all. What questions do you have? How are you going to make your next feature? Do you guys, not to put you on the spot, but how much have you thought about this? How much do you pick up from the web and friends. Just maybe talk about that a little bit.
For us, to be truthful, we haven't really learned about this in school. This is something that we're trying to figure out on our own outside of school, trying to, look up books on Amazon, trying to find websites that talk about it, trying to find YouTube videos that talk about it. So for us, I mean, all the information that we're getting here is definitely a must need for us students. And in fact, what's really grateful right now for our department at RCC is our new head of the department that's come in, and he's really trying to enforce this idea of being knowledgeable of coming out of RCC and knowing how to crowdfund, how to start up a small business, so to say, a film as entrepreneurs, so to speak, and coming in how to get this money, how to get investors on board. And I think it would be really grateful if we could kind of figure out and get some of you people on board as well, where we can learn from you guys, because it's definitely one of the biggest weaknesses that we have as newcomers. And I think a lot of filmmakers that have come out of RCC are definitely amazing filmmakers, but they lack the business angle, which I feel is...
the name of it is show business.
Exactly.
And I don't feel, at least it's been my experience, that the business aspect isn't taught as well. Professors, I'm sorry if that's part of the curriculum, definitely speak up. But I know in where I'm living now in Oklahoma, a lot of the students are given the camera and they're given the equipment and they're told to go out and make a film. But the business aspect of it
is where we lack.
And what I tell people is, along with that film degree, get a business degree, okay? Because you've got to be able to count those beans,
Coming from that, we're going to put Dean Mark Robertson on the spot. He's the dean, as he said, School of Architecture and Visual Arts. So what we're talking about, Mark, what's in the curriculum about teaching the business side of show business, and how much do they learn, and how much do you guide them into that direction after the creative process is done?
The short answer is not nearly enough about business. In any of in our college, we have architecture, graphic design, photography, art, and film. And I've very much concurred that none of those disciplines traditionally teach a lot of business along with the art. And all of them are completely dependent on being able to understand business. I learned that the hard way as an architect after I got out of school and went into the world and thought, wow, I wish I knew what I was doing now. And but actually we have a class coming up in the fall on film marketing, taught by a person who has many years of experience at that, and I'm really excited about our students having that opportunity.
We had Ralph Winter co-teach a class with me.
And we did have one of the biggest producers in Hollywood come out and teach a class, and he talked a lot about that as well. We were very excited about that. You probably took that class, didn't you? No? Okay.
No.
But you wish you had.
I wish.
Did you want to talk about the marketing class at all?
No.
No, okay.
No, I just wanted to follow up with that, is George, what he said. And I've been a producer and distributor, and I learned the hard way and got myself kicked all over the map and learned really the hard way. Sometimes I feel I should have done a management degree also, but if you raise enough money, you can hire a good manager, so you don't have to waste 2.5 years getting the degree. You can waste 6 months raising that money to hire the manager. But I agree with you, a strong legal team and a strong management person is vital for, I think, a successful venture. But thanks for that.
Oh, well, I was just going to say that I feel like I'm kind of like in between, literally and figuratively. Not quite a student, but I'm not quite as seasoned as these wonderful filmmakers and producers over here. I have a decent amount of experience crowdsourcing and whatnot, and going through that process. I have a decent amount of experience getting hit with the business side. I feel like I have 1 foot in the indie world and 1 foot in that Hollywood world where I'm even like pitching projects and things of that nature. And I think the strangest part about crowdsourcing for me are 2 things, and one you covered, which was the crowd comes first.
Yes.
I had to learn that the hard way, and I think there is something to us just doing it, especially you young guys. Like, you have time to be stupid, so go be stupid for a little while. Like, we're not, like, think about it like football. I can learn all the plays in the world, I can learn the technique on paper, but I can't apply it until I learn how to take a hit. In this business, you're just going to, there's no avoiding it. You're gonna fail, you're gonna mess up.
But there's also, like you said though, you're also surrounded with people who have that knowledge. Claudia is one of those people. I mean, this is what she does for a living. So in your budget, if you've got a budget for a consultant, Claudia is definitely a good resource to have. Claudia and I have been making films together for 15 years.
You're absolutely right if you're going for a certain budget.
Right.
If you're going for like $5,000, $6,000 just to make your thesis film or something like that, you need to get out and do it. And there is a certain budget level that makes it so that you still have to just go do it. I will even argue for that for the like early 20s and whatnot. As a matter of fact, that is business school to a certain extent. And nothing keeps you more accountable than having 300, 400 people constantly asking you when you're going to be done. And then the other thing is the most awkward and weird thing about crowdsourcing, as I look at people who are just a little bit younger than me, is I think as filmmakers we're making really fundamental mistakes in the marketing of our crowdsourcing, which is the way we make our crowdsourcing videos. The number one rule about filmmaking is show, don't tell. But when you make your videos, including myself, what's the first thing you do? You go, hey, my name is Sonny Johnson and I'm making Dangerous Dinosaurs 2 and the cinematography is going to be amazing. Picture this, instead of actually showing them. And I think that we have to ground ourselves as filmmakers in improving our ability all along the way. Yeah, you may not have a lot of money, but you do have an iPhone, you do have this. Go make something, show people you were worth it. Don't just talk about it. But I don't know, I might have been a little off topic.
I'd like to add that when I started making movies and started working in Hollywood, I came from Europe, I didn't speak English, and I was, trying to figure out America, really. But one thing I was very clear on is whatever I'm going to do in show business, I want people to see my work. I'm not going to make movies that no one sees. And so I studied marketing, self-promotion, PR, press, all these kind of things, because you can spend $5,000 on a thesis film, but no one sees it and it doesn't really move your career forward.
Absolutely.
What's the point? So I'm working right now with a lot of students. I just was speaking at Northridge. I speak regularly at universities. I get invited as a speaker. And I work with students right now who want to use their thesis film as a vehicle. And I'm strategizing for them and creating a platform for them where it's going to be truly, that film is going to make the next one happen. And that's how you want to build your career, is one film should make the next one happen. If that doesn't happen, then your business strategy is not working.
And nowadays, your crowdsourcing campaign can become the biggest vehicle for getting your name out there.
Yes,
People
absolutely.
love covering those underdog stories. Like when I did my crowdsourcing campaign, the Hollywood Reporter covered me. I have that framed.
Exactly.
Because I didn't think that was going to happen for like
Right.
10 or 15 more years, and they've been covering my stuff ever since. And believe it or not, I got representation from that. I got my legal team from that.
There you go.
So, crowdsourcing could, once again, crowd comes first, but think about it this way. If you don't have a YouTube channel that you stumbled into where you got hundreds of thousands of views, and this is, seed and spark, the seed of your crowd could be the crowdsourcing campaign, as long as you go into it kind of with realistic expectations. That's why I think you guys have it the dopest. You're so young that
Yeah, you can afford to make mistakes.
Yeah, you're so young that you can ask for $3,000.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And even if you don't get it, what do you expect? You're like 20 years old. However, those people that were into the idea, they stick around, like she said, for the next one and the next one. So.
And what's really beautiful is that once people put money into your project, you can actually ask for other things. Like the way I got a review for Variety is I had this big crowd, and I couldn't get Variety review my film for the sake of my life. And I just decided I'm just going to put it out there in the universe and see what happens. And I wrote an email to my crowd and said, does anyone has any connections in variety, and someone did, and that's how I ended up getting a really good review. So asking for additional things, in-kind type of help is, I think it's very important, and your crowd can really take you to the next level. So it's not just the money.
Can any of you think of a way that a film festival can help
Yes.
encourage encourage people to get to filmmakers that need funding? You know, we've got something of a mailing list that we've received, but we don't really know if there are other filmmakers in the Riverside or Inland Empire that are going through a crowdfunding process. So how would we be able to find out stuff like that?
Well, you have to become a magnet for your community. I think that's really important. It's all about attraction. I mean, always going out and asking for things is one thing, but there's another way of doing this, is being so fabulous. And I know this sounds a little bit like, you know, new agey and everything, but, you know, doing things for the community and having, you know, putting programs out there and marketing yourself and doing your own PR for the organization, that people want to come to you, want to interact with you, and then you will find out the information. So really creating a community. I think the crowd part again comes up. So even if you're not crowdfunding, but you just have a career in show business, you need a crowd, you need a fan base. I mean, that's really what stardom is. Your crowd is really big, that's all it is. Your fan base is really big, so absolutely.
We have, you did a documentary from UCR.
Right.
Tell us about your experience with funding of it.
Yeah, actually, I have a question to Claudia. Too. I raised the fund last year in Kickstarter Kickstarter.com, about $4,000 for just post production, to budget. And this is a tax reporting season, right? So I have a question how to report the tax, the fund. What is it? Is it income, or is it non-taxable gifts, or any other category? Or
Yeah, to be honest, I have no idea, because it's my accounting. It's an accounting question. I don't know whether it's an income or how you would need to do that. I don't know.
I asked my filmmaker friend, but no one knows exactly how to report it. And someone says it should be technically income or
Probably an
some.
income, I guess.
Yeah.
No, I'm not an accountant. Okay, let me say that. I'm going to say that on film. I'm not an accountant. But
one more time.
I am not an accountant or a lawyer. I'm a filmmaker.
Legal
Just a
disclaimer.
legal disclaimer. Okay. If you have, what I do is I create an LLC for each individual film. Okay. So every film is its own entity. Okay. So Emerald, Texas, the film that was shown here, is its own entity. Touche Productions is its own entity. So if you were to do a crowdfunding for your film, XYZ film, okay, my suggestion is you create an LLC, which is a limited liability company, for that project. Then any money you raise goes into that bank account for that LLC, okay? That's not income, not unless you draw from it and pay yourself. Then it becomes income, okay? If you leave it in the LLC and you use it for, hiring, people to come out and shoot your film, now you're using that crowdfunding to pay people. It's not income. Okay. You can also then include that money as capital gains, as losses. That's when your accountant can come in and step in and help you do that. I also suggest, you get a good accountant, somebody that knows filmmaking. There are plenty in the book. Claudia can also recommend some, I'm sure. But no, if you leave it in that bank account and use it to pay your crew and pay for post-production, it's not income. Okay.
George, can I come? Yeah. So you said your budget was $4,000, right? So, I mean, I think maybe I'm disagreeing with you on that, on the lower budget, films, because if you have an LLC in California, you have to pay $800 annually.
Move to Oklahoma, it's $45.
Okay, well, maybe in Oklahoma. But in California, it's $800 annually, and then, everything. If you have an LLC, if you have a business entity, everything costs more. So I think there is I would say there should be a minimum budget for you to think about in terms of an LLC. I don't exactly know this question, the answer to your question. One thing I would say though this, anything you do, any film project you do, always handle the money completely separately from your personal, money, from your family's money, from your business's money. Always have a separate bank account. Make sure that your integrity and your transparency is, top notch, because that's how you create trust in the long run. And that's how your investors or donors will come back to you and say, oh, okay, he was really great the first time, I'm going to give money the second time, and so forth.
Somebody who hasn't...
I have a question.
Please, this is like the last question. We've got 3 minutes to go.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Not as young as you guys, I have less time to make stupid mistakes and everything like that. But regarding the LLC and the crowdfunding, okay, we're all filmmakers here. We all have projects. How do we differentiate towards the crowd to say, okay, invest in my project, not his, not hers, not that person over there? What's the one thing to do? Put up a trailer, a summary, without the attachment, like you said, very important what you said, attachments, whether known actor, known DP. What's the one thing that would separate his project from his project that people will be drawn into?
2 words, target market. You need to know your market for the given project. So for documentaries, it's really great, I think, because you can, it's cause oriented. It's not just a fiction film about whatever. But, like if you do make a fiction film about zombies, then that's your target market. That's the kind of odd, unusual, alternative type of way of thinking. So 2 words, ultimately, because we have 3 minutes, I can go on about this for 3 hours really, but target market. And I would like to say, by the way, that as a consultant, if any of you are interested, I give free consultations, so if that's interest to anyone, I'd be happy
Fixes
to.
your budget.
Okay, I'll give you my card, yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. I give a
We
free
need it.
20-minute free consultation to anyone, and it's just no pressure to buy or anything. I really do want to help, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I say one thing real quick. You can learn whatever you want in the class. There's nothing for experience, okay? I got hooked up with Maria for the documentary. Hook up with an experienced filmmaker. That'll help you out a lot.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
well, thank you all so much. That's 1 hour passed very quickly, and like you said, we could probably do many, many hours over here. But really appreciate everyone's input, and thank you again. Take care.
It would probably be a good deal for us to get information as free consulting.
That was really neat.